Hello everybody and welcome to ZeldaSpeedRuns, broadcasting the Link to the Past No Major Glitches Tournament 2021. We got the first match of the tournament for you today. It's Eriror versus apathyduck. Commentating for us we have Tonwir Farid. I should have asked how to say that before I started this. And this guy Orion. Say hello everybody.
Howdy, how's everybody?
Hello guys.
I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm excited to get to do the very first race of the tournament, and this should be a really good one. Both of these guys are really fast. Eri 123.31 is his PB, and apathyduck 125.44, I think, if memory serves. So should be a really good race and a really fast race.
Definitely, both these runners are exceptionally good at the game, and yeah, I'm also really looking forward to it. Eriror, of course, the currently, I think, 4th place runner on the leaderboards. So basically, as good as it gets. Only very few optimizations that he can't do or hasn't yet been able to implement in his best of runs. But yeah.
Oh, and we're off.
We're off.
So, yeah, you were mentioning Eri not having a whole lot of optimizations. What I've always found interesting about watching Eri run, for someone with a mid 123 time, he does historically use a lot of safe strats and not necessarily the optimal strats. For instance, I hardly ever see him go for the desert spin speed on the way to the library. Sorry, not the desert spin speed, library spin speed.
Yeah, the unholy spin speed.
That one, yes. And I don't know if I've ever seen him do a hover in GT on a PB attempt. So little things like that, he plays really safe, but he does all of them really well. apathyduck, I'm actually not terribly sure what the risky strats apathyduck goes for, or prefers to play more safe, but also wicked fast. So
yeah, definitely. So
you don't get to that level without doing. You go ahead.
Exactly. Like you don't get those times by not performing at the extremely high level. So we can expect the best from both of these guys. I've also got to admit, I'm also not too familiar with apathyduck's playstyle. So yeah, we both know Eri is a runner who likes to go for these safer strats and just very solid execution, and yeah, not trying to go for all the risks for every single optimization there is. Instead, just playing very solidly and taking good and strats that get you like 99% of the way there, but are just way safer than what could be optimal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's always really fun to watch people at this level for both of these runners, of course, because there's just so much to learn every single run.
Yeah, one of the great things about a game like Link to the Past that is so highly optimized is you get to see essentially the exact same route run by all of the top level players. So you really get a good idea for what separates people skill level wise, because they're all going to be trying to do the same thing. It all comes down to how well you can execute those things. And Link to the Past certainly has plenty of RNG moments in it, but it is not a game that RNG is going to make or break your time. So this race and the entire tournament on a larger scale should really come down to how well can you execute the route, which makes it a really great speed game.
Yeah,
it's not an accident that 800 people run this.
Certainly not. And yeah, we as you pointed out, there's not a lot of RNG that actually the runners do not have any control over. Like there are the blue balls at Aghanim and Ganon Warps. Those are like basically the two only real RNG components where there's like nothing you can do. You're just losing time, and
Right.
almost everywhere else you can always play well and deal with enemy movement and stuff like that. And if you do it well, there's also not too much time you're losing. Yeah, so definitely a great game to run.
Yeah, and I feel like just maybe yesterday I saw somebody say when it comes to the blue balls that you get with Aghanim, you have I think maybe right at 50% or even greater than 50% chance of only being plus or minus 6 seconds. So despite the fact that a lot of people will really sweat out, am I going to have good luck or bad luck on Aghanim? Most of the time, that should not make or break a run.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. It certainly has a potential to. For anyone not terribly familiar with the run, just a really quick kind of explanation there. That is the one really big RNG section of this run is how many blue balls the wizard Aghanim shoots at you while you're trying to kill him. And it can be anywhere from 0 to 15. And every single blue ball costs you somewhere in the realm of 6 seconds. So it's a pain in the neck if that number is much higher than just 2 or 3.
Yeah. So here we are in the first split of the game still. We've been seeing these runners go through the escape sequence, where we just start out as Link in our house, and there's a rainstorm. We head to the castle. There's a mysterious voice that calls us there after the uncle has left for it. And yeah, the first thing we do is rescue Zelda, who was captured and trapped inside the dungeon, and get her through the secret passageway towards the sanctuary, where she hopefully is safe. And both these runners having quite good times right here. Eriror just shy of 5 minutes and 50 seconds, 5:49, which is an awesome time to get in this split. And apathyduck
5:54 for apathyduck. Yeah, escape is the segment that runners are going to be most familiar with, because boy, there are a lot of resets that get you doing escape over and over and over again. But yeah, not a lot of trouble expected there. Not a lot of trouble had with either one. Eri going for Sanctuary Heart, so is apathyduck there, which is smart in a race setting. That extra heart can really save the day.
I think it loses about 4 seconds to grab that, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's even less. And you get one more extra heart container, and yeah, those are rare. You only get them on boss kills, so there are no extra safeties to get in the entire run. Only the full heart container drops you get from the bosses of the game. And picking up Sank Heart right there, definitely a smart choice for these tournament type of races. And we can see Eri would have died right here without that.
Eri glad he picked up Sank Heart now. And apathyduck. That was kind of clever. apathyduck went ahead and boomed a red rupee that he got from killing one of those Octoroks, and now he won't need to worry about his rupee count ever. Yeah. He's rich.
That's plenty. Exactly. You only really need just a couple. Getting one 20 rupee drop during the early game is all you ever need in the entire run. Everything else is all planned out and rooted out. You only are reliant on very, very little rupees from like enemy drops.
Yeah, and again, just in case anyone's watching who's not terribly familiar with the run, there will be a point early-ish on where it's required that Link has at least 110 rupees in order to gain access to a dungeon. And the route is written such that, boy, you really don't get very many more than 110 rupees. So that 120 rupee drop is going to save a whole lot of stress for apathyduck. He will not have to worry at all about how many rupees he gets. No problems whatsoever through the Stalfos room for either runner. So far, so good.
Oh yeah, and as pointed out in the chat right now, you don't need any drops. Of course, you can always grab some extra pots in the dungeons. There are like multiple 5 rupee pots in dungeons where you can get some extra cash in. So if Eri stays unlucky and doesn't get any drops here in Eastern Palace, for instance, we will probably see him grab one of those in Desert Palace. So it's not like you're reliant on enemy RNG for that. It's just a little faster to get those.
I did notice both runners opted for the quote-unquote safety arrows here in Eastern. I imagine this is going to be a very common theme throughout the entire tournament, is not bothering with strats that have high risk, low reward kind of things, because the arrow pot that both runners have already picked up is not strictly necessary. You don't absolutely have to have those 5 arrows for going forward, but you sort of have to rely on getting a drop at that point. Or have a real good land mow.
Yeah, I mean, in Eastern itself, if you don't get those 5 arrows from the pot, you will actually have to rely on a little bit of RNG. There's an 87.5% chance, I think, to get arrows from enemy drops in the later part here of Eastern Palace, and so basically there's a 12.5% chance that you're losing a little bit more time, so you will have to grab some extra arrows elsewhere if you're not picking up those 5 arrows from the pot. But here Eri is getting great RNG, has a lot of arrows, and manages to pull
little
back.
bit of trouble with the Igors, but cleaned it up nicely.
Yeah.
And we'll see what strat he opts for with the Armos.
Yeah, very clean top right Armos with another optimization where he shoots an extra arrow down to just to get the kill even faster. apathyduck going for the standard top right strat, also very clean.
Yeah, there's a little bit of conversation in chat about that arrow pickup. The vast majority of runners grab those arrows every single time, even in PB attempts. It's very uncommon to see people skip those arrows, because you lose, I don't even know, a second maybe.
Yeah, and also, as you have pointed out before, there are plenty of places in the game where you will want to have a little more arrows, a couple of arrows spare. For example, for Lanmo, so the second boss in this game, things can go wrong there. You can miss a couple of arrows, and you are happy to have a couple of extra ones. And also later on in the game, there's always you always appreciate a good arrow count throughout the entire game. In Palace of Darkness, for even for GT or Misery Maya, you will need plenty of arrows. So
yeah, there's no such thing as too many arrows.
Yeah, definitely.
No one will ever complain about, oh, I wish I didn't have this many arrows.
If you're having a really good arrow count, you can of course skip some of the arrows you would find later on, like in Turtle Rock. But yeah, that's also very minor optimization. And as we can see, Eri here didn't opt for the unholy spin speed. apathyduck is going for it.
apathyduck is.
Oh, beautiful.
And it looks like it went well for apathyduck. So that saves you, I don't know, I've heard that nets you 4 whole frames. So you understand why Eri doesn't bother with it. But at the same time, apathyduck nailed it in one go, so picked up a little bit of time there on Eri.
Unfortunately, has to do 2 spins for the second spin speed here. Unfortunately is losing a little bit of time there. I think it was a little more than just 4 frames here. Foxlink.
I'm being told also closer to about half a second, which that actually seems more right.
Yeah, but also, I mean, it's not easy to have clean movement either way. So I think it also depends on your personal preference. For myself, for instance, I'm usually fine with spin speeds. I usually don't miss those, but I'm still, as kind of a newish runner, do tend to have some struggle with efficient dash canceling and really getting my dashes as far as I can before I cancel them without bonking. And for me, like, the spin speed is just consistently faster because there's a lot more like leeway on your movement when you're doing the spin speed. But also, if you're missing it, it's like, yeah, it's way worse, of course.
And I tell you, speaking of good dash cancels, apathyduck just had a great one.
Yeah.
A very, very minor thing, but on his way into Desert Palace, before he read the book, had a fantastic dash cancel, and then bonked a wall for, I don't know, some reason, luck maybe, or an errant button press, more likely. The spin speeds for me, the big reason the unholy spin speed, I personally don't bother with it. Arming the spin speed is not a big deal. Every single time I go to execute spin speed by touching that staircase, though, every single time I have to do it twice. And at that point, it's no longer worth it. So I just don't bother.
Yeah, that's right. You really have to make sure that you're only using cardinal down input to leave the stairs. Then you should be fine. Diagonals can often mess you up.
Looked like both runners had a really good cannonball room. I don't think I saw either one of them have to wait on cannonball cycles at all, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's one of the rooms that just feels so good as a runner if you're getting like the good pattern and can just dash through.
Oh yeah, it's a great feeling. So here's one of the things. Oh, you know what? I spoke too soon. I was about to say, here's one of the things where Eri really doesn't go for a safe strat. He often will do a bufferless desert spin speed there, but did opt for the menu to lantern on that one. We'll see. And same for apathyduck, also menuing to the lantern. And that's where most folks will use their menu, assuming they are going for the desert spin speed. But every now and then you see people just eyeball it and go without the menu, which is very dangerous, because if you manage to fall off the cliff there, you lose a mountain of time.
Yeah, I also I don't like this strat at all. I'm not good at it, so I won't bother trying. But it certainly does look very scary, and it doesn't all save a whole lot of time. So if you're new or starting out, definitely something you can skip out on for sure. Also only like 20 frames or something, so you really don't have to bother with it. Okay, that's the second cycle. First land mode down for Eri, and missed one.
Eri just missing out on the 3 cycle. Should be an easy 4. Yeah, so quick 4 cycle for Eri.
That was a rough first cycle for apathyduck, but pulls it back really well in the second cycle and is getting the 3 cycle.
Managed to clean up the 3, yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Beautifully played. Especially in the second cycle, landed a lot of crucial arrows there. Very nice.
But as Greenham just pointed out in the chat, apathyduck a little bit low on arrow count. Oh, Eri having some trouble with the desert monster. So apathyduck may very well opt to pick up an extra arrow pot in the cave coming up.
Yeah, 7 arrows is barely fine, as Fox points out. I think that's also like the break point I'm setting for myself. If I have any lower, I will pick up the arrow pot, but I can usually manage with 7, but then again also I'm not going for the pickle snipe strat for 3 rupees later on, so we will probably or hopefully see different strats there, so we can actually see which one the runners prefer. But basically later on there are a couple of different strats how you will kill a couple of enemies that or that you are required to kill, and we will see what strats these guys are opting for, if they will need an extra arrow for that or not.
Indeed. Okay, first of all, Josh, words are hard, all right? Second of all, someone asked about swimming without the flippers. So that is a glitch known as fake flippers, which Fox just provided an explanation for via Helpasaur. Thank you, Helpasaur. But yeah, it's a very, very common glitch. By that I mean it's essentially mandatory for this run. You can get away with not using fake flippers, but nobody I know does. And actually, I was gonna mention both runners really, really, really nice fake flippers, not just in the execution, but the setup for it. Both pickles stayed well out of the way for both runners. That was really nice. Didn't lose any time.
I was gonna say, fake flippers are not as much of an essential glitch as we might think. It's just so easy to do that basically it's one of the first things anyone who picks up this game is learning, as far as glitches are concerned, at least. So there are nice ways to also get from desert to the mountain without using the fake flippers and the vortex there. Yeah, it's just something that's like rather easy to learn, and I mean, if you're learning a speed game, you of course want to also learn some of the tech, and I think it's a great starting point. So you will see most of new runners also opt for this strat.
Yeah, it's a good one to learn early on to kind of get your feet wet with. Get your feet wet. I didn't even
wow.
with just learning the glitched tech. I am not going to mention how much trouble Eri had on Death Mountain and his health situation. I would never do that to jinx him, so I won't bring it up at all.
No, it was rough. It was a rough Death Mountain ascent for Eri. So he had a really bad time with like the boulders that drop on Death Mountain, and also with the dead rocks, those squirrel-esque enemies, and there. Ooh.
I'm sorry. That was my fault. I take the blame for that.
Definitely. Yep.
So Eri taking a death in Hera will have a lot of time to make up.
Yeah. Definitely hurts a lot to die right there, because we will have to sit through this basically cutscene.
Yeah.
For its entirety.
Yeah, the tile room there's no fast way to do the tile room. You just have to wait for all the tiles to wear themselves out. Apathyduck, meanwhile, making his way through Petting Zoo, no problem. Not going for the safety switch, which is unsurprising. He's only missing one heart here.
Yeah. Yeah, and apathyduck, of course, now in the lead with Eriror's death in the basement of Tower of Hera. We have talked about it a little bit. Eri is, of course, one of the very best runners in the world of this particular game, and still, apathyduck only, well, I think about 2 minutes behind in his PB, so it's something you can always catch up to. Right here, we will see apathyduck. Yeah, we will see his split time when he finishes Tower of Hera and how far ahead he will be by the end of it. And yeah, we can already see this will be a close race. It's not like, okay, one guy is so much better than the other, there's no chance to win.
Yeah, all of the hard stuff is still to come. So
yeah.
It is it's still wide open.
Light world is rough. Actually, I think my worst part of the run for me is the light world, definitely, and we are almost done with it, but that's actually not the parts where you have the big time losses. Like those come in the dark world if you mess up there anywhere. And Eri
suffering
really, really
another
bad time
big
here.
Time loss.
You will have to watch out here. Moldom is a tricky boss, and you can always get frame ruled by him, which will get you.
I suppose the silver lining there is it happened right at the very beginning of the fight. So,
yeah.
As far as Moldorm falls go, that's the best one you can have.
Okay, from what it
Apathyduck on
looks
his way
like.
to retrieve the Master Sword now.
Okay,
Always sort
apathyduck.
of a good barometer to see how your run is going is to check your time on the Master Sword pickup. That's a good indicator for how your light world is.
Yeah. He's also opting for another route with the enemy kills. So we will have to. Oh, we saw apathyduck do that one tree pull where we saw some blue rupees drop. After we do that, we will need to kill 4 more enemies without taking any damage and pull on the other tree, which we will see shortly on his side of the screen. Right here at Eriror's side, we can see the first tree pull. So after that, as I said, we will have to kill 4 enemies to get the next tier of tree pulls, which will net us 4 red rupees, which combined will grant us a total of 80 rupees. So yeah, let's see which kill apathyduck is going for. Okay, this one, and I think this spins. Let's see.
Yeah, it's a very specific manipulation that the runners do to ensure that they get the rupees they want from pulling that tree. If you don't kill the right number of enemies, or if you take damage, pulling on the tree won't net you enough rupees. So there is it's not unheard of to take damage on the overworld here. And if that happens, then you have to go to a backup strat and pick up some extra rupees somewhere else. So it's a manipulation that everybody learns at some point. Apathyduck with a little wall nudge there, that's deliberate to ensure that those guards don't hurt him.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also like the route he's chosen for 3 rupees. He will probably do it every run if he does it here, but still it does save him a rupee, an arrow. So that's really good because we've talked about it. Arrows were kind of short for him, but still fine. So he used 2 here. Will use another probably 4 in this dungeon, and yeah. 5 pick up another 5 arrow drop in Aghanim's tower where he is at right now, which will grant him a total of 6 for Tower of Hera for Pillars of Darkness, which I would also have liked to have at least 7 at always, but I think he should be fine. He probably does know his way around the game a lot better than I do, so I'm not too worried about him.
Yeah, I imagine both of these runners are certainly at a skill level where they know how to handle any sort of adversity that they might run up against. I think Eri may have missed a spin on that guard. I'm not sure.
Fortunately, I wasn't looking either. But definitely, yeah, these rooms we see here at Aghanim's tower are very, very hard to execute, some of them. Let's see if... Oh yeah, beautiful double spin on the top red guard. And, oh, beautiful. I always mess up that RNG.
Apathyduck gets the difficult RNG in the Circle of Pots room, but handled it really, really well.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
RNG, oh, that one bakes my noodle. I have a hard time with that one a lot. Hey, if somebody could do me a favor and ban Fox, I'd really appreciate it.
I think he's had a little bit of a Kane moment right there.
Okay, so yeah, I said what I said. Bakes my noodle. I'll say it again. So apathyduck now getting ready to go into the Aghanim fight. This is what we talked about earlier, where the RNG can really, 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 again, probably not really make or break your run, but can serve as a great equalizer depending on how it goes. So we'll be counting for how many blue balls apathyduck gets here. The first attack in every cycle is always an energy balls. That's a guaranteed one. And then there's 3 more that could be energy balls or blue balls. and it's a 50-50 chance so far. Okay, so no blue balls yet.
Yeah, that's really nice.
During the first cycle for apathyduck. That's the best start you can have.
It's also looking to be a very good light build for apathyduck. From what I can tell on his timer, this is faster than his PB light build so far.
All right, there's the first blue ball. Only one blue ball for apathyduck.
Absolutely
Really
beautiful.
nice Aghanim fight.
Yes.
And Eri now starting the fight as well. There's one. You'll notice something that the runners do. They will try and maneuver in such a way that when they deflect these energy balls back at Aghanim, you want to hit him kind of towards the middle of the room, because that will usually mean that his warps are shorter. It's a very small optimization, but particularly if the fight drags on for a long time, can save you a fair amount of time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you also don't have anything else to do, and there's basically no risk at all during this fight, so you might as well do these small optimizations too.
Yeah, so Eri is going to end up with 3 blue balls. He got a blue ball there at the end of that second cycle, which is a little bit rough, but 2 and 3 blue balls are I think, the most common outcomes. I mentioned every single time it's a 50-50 shot. But he will lose some time compared to apathyduck there, who only had 1.
Yeah. And
the third blue ball also means that there's 1 extra warp. So on top of the 2 additional blue balls he has to deal with, you add 1 warp in there as well.
Yeah,
nice
it's not only. Yeah, definitely. It was a beautiful kicky dash, very well cancelled. Yeah, what you're trying to do there is cancel the dash as tight as you can, so far up the screen as possible, without actually triggering the cutscene, because when you're dashing, the monkey Kiki, who opens the dungeon for you, will lag behind a little bit, and if you cancel your dash, turn downwards, Kiki will actually get higher up the screen, and when you begin the cutscene, Kiki will have a shorter way to walk, which is a lot slower than the dashing part before. So that's really nice to see there.
Now, Eri is coming up on that moment as well. Eri, I'm more familiar with his route than I am with apathyduck's. Eri, I think, historically will combine the Kiki Dash with menuing to the mirror, which you need shortly after entering the Palace of Darkness. So we'll see if he does that here.
Yeah, that's also a really smart spot to do it.
So yeah, that's a good place to use that menu, because it makes the Kiki Dash setup a little bit easier. Now, the Kiki Dash is a very minor thing. It's a very small time save, but it's fun.
Yeah. apathyduck also unfortunately took a hit from the Medusa Fireball here in Palace of Darkness on the first time he entered the main hub here. He will have to grab an extra heart before he goes to the boss, so he can have sword beams, which we also, of course, as in most Zelda games, only have with the Master Sword or better if we are at full HP. So there will probably also lose him another second or so to grab that extra heart, but
apathyduck with a failed hammer jump. Hammer jump, one of the trickier techniques, I guess, technique for lack of a better term, in the game. It requires 2 pixel perfect placements and positionings to jump over this gap here and open that chest. And failing it is no bueno. So apathyduck went for it a second time, got it no problem, but is now missing 4 hearts as a result, and will not, unless he gets a heart drop, which is certainly on the table. If he doesn't get a heart drop, will not have sword beams for the turtle room. Or there you go, there's a heart drop. So we'll have the opportunity to have sword beams for the latter part of the dungeon, which is big. Not having beams is a real inconvenience.
Yeah, it will require you to.
The missed hammer jump will cost him some time, certainly.
Yeah, definitely.
And Eri there with the hammer jump now, no problem.
Yeah, it's really nice to see like these very strong runners to get the hammer jump without lots of menus or anything. Like when I tried to start and learn this tech, yeah, it was kind of rough. You could barely see a time save there because it's just a lot of menuing to hit the perfect pixel, the right pixel, and these guys, of course, make it seem so easy.
Yeah, you see the top runners do it with no extra menu buffers. It's very, very impressive. They, like you said, they make it look really simple. It is not.
Yeah.
There is actually a fun comparison video showing someone with I think 30 menu buffers versus just doing the dungeon the quote-unquote intended way and going through I think 2 whole extra rooms that you usually don't see. There you go. Someone did it in the chat if anyone wants to watch that comparison video. And the hammer jump, even with the 30 menu buffers, is still faster, but not by very much. So it is definitely a technique worth learning if you ever want to be quote unquote good at the run. It is something you will need to learn how to do, but it's very, very tricky.
Yeah.
Really good helmet fight there for apathyduck. No problems whatsoever.
Definitely. It was a beautiful fight. Use the new spin speed or super speed state fight method or tech I think it's a rather recent technique found in this game, just a couple of months
Eri is
old.
using it as well. Yeah, it's a pretty recent discovery. Essentially what it does is it makes the hammer hitbox much, much larger. So you don't have to worry quite so much about just getting rocked by Helmasaur.
Yeah.
When you're trying to smack Helmasaur on the nose.
Okay. Eri dropped a little low here, but managed to clean up the fight nicely too. Yeah, but Sankard, exactly. Without
Sankard has come in clutch for Eri a few times today.
Yeah, definitely. This is the 3rd time he would have died without it. Or let's say the 3rd time he would have died without it and didn't actually die. Because of course he did take that one death on Tower Terra.
Yeah, that's true. So up next we have, honestly, one of the more brutal overworld sections in the game, in my opinion, on our way to the Thieves Town dungeon.
I agree. It's probably one of the words for me.
Nice hammer dash from apathyduck.
Yeah.
That first try hammer dash usually is no problem, but if you don't get the hammer dash first try, things can go sideways real fast.
Yeah. You saw him move a little down on the screen before attempting the dash, or before attempting the dash to the left before the hammer dash itself.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is it usually deals a lot better with the RNG and enemy movement on the screen, so you don't get bothered by those guards patrolling in front of the bridge, and can easily set up your hammer dash without getting hit.
Yeah, Eri doing the same thing just now. Just take a couple of steps downward before you begin your left dash, and it sets it up a little bit nicer. More nicely. Whatever. So apathyduck back in Light World now after collecting the flute. And having a little bit of trouble with the spin speed. There you go. Second try, no problem. That spin speed there, very important, because the red guard, colloquially known as Usain Bolt, is very fast. It's faster than Link. So to get around him without spin speed is really difficult. Usually you have to kill him, or else take a lot of damage. So far, so smooth overworlds for both runners. first try spin speed, and no problem with Usain Bolt for Eri. A little bit of a bonk there for apathyduck, no big deal. Someone explain to me why there's a bird just living inside this weather vane. I don't know if there is a lore explanation for that, but it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rough life out there in Kakariko.
And there's a completely free quick warp. If you ask anybody who's just in love with calling things free, that quick warp is one of them.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So again, I should explain that again for anyone who isn't terribly familiar with with the run. When you step on those warp tiles to move from light world to dark world, depending on how you step on it and where you're standing when you step on the tile, you can get what we call a quick warp, which all it really does is the warp animation. The screen kind of does the Wayne's World, that thing. It's exactly what it is. The screen does that, and if you get the quick warp, that animation finishes sooner, and it saves you almost a full second. And you can do it on every single warp tile. Some of them are a lot more difficult to land on that quick warp space than others.
Many have,
but that particular one is one of the easier setups for a quick warp. So people like to refer to it as free. But people also like to refer to, I don't know, single poke cold stare as free.
I like single poke cold stare. That one's actually free. I sailed and died on cold stare on my last run.
Good hellways for both runners there.
Yeah.
No god pick. So sad. But no damage either, I don't
they
think.
They didn't have the best RNG for it, so it's not always possible to get the perfect dash through the entire room. Well, we saw both runners adjust really well and get through there really nicely too. And we're getting blocked by one of those.
So I missed where Apathy took damage, but he is missing 3 hearts here.
Yeah.
Not a huge deal. But the fight at the end of this dungeon, as everyone loves to remind everyone always, is a scripted fight. So blind, again, here's that word. Blind should be free. But if blind goes sideways, you want every single heart you can get, because if you get off script somehow, it can cost you a lot of health. So it's one of those things that just in case, it's nice to have as much health as you can get.
I mean, if the fight does go off script or you're having any kind of trouble, it's rough to pull back sometimes, because it's actually a hard fight. There's a reason why many people casually have struggled here for a long time. And there's no shame in that, really, but if you don't get the perfect fight, things can go wrong. And what you essentially have to do is the movement of blind himself is reliant on the frame counter of the room itself. So basically, if you hit blind every time in the same manner, he will always do the same thing too. And what you want to do to guarantee that is to hold out your sword and basically have blind's hitbox spawn into your sword hitbox. Basically, your sword is there first, so there's no way for you to miss the first frame of damage that you could possibly get. And that's what nets you the perfect scripted fight here, which we could see on Apathy's side. And Eri is doing the same. And yeah, that was another beautiful blind kill.
You know, one of the things I really love about this game is it's a nice hour and a half long run. To me, that's about a perfect length for a speed game. Can you imagine playing a game that takes like, I don't know, 6 hours and 53 minutes?
Oof.
Why would anybody want to run a game that long? I sure wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same. I mean, it also depends a little. If it's an RPG or something, you can probably get away with it. But Link to the Past, like many other Zelda games, is a very, very execution-heavy game, and you have to be on top of your game the entire time. There's basically no downtime, even during these cutscenes which we could see Eri and apathyduck both having after the boss kill. You still have to mash the text boxes, have to mash your face buttons to get rid of those, and yeah, basically there's very, very little downtime. You have to really keep focused the entire time. It's quite a dangerous game, and if you don't like keep focused and get hit by an enemy here or there, you can quickly lose a lot of HP, and yeah, things can get very dangerous real fast. So for me, these 90 minutes this run takes are probably a lot harder than a lot longer games that do not require as much attention during the entire span of the run.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, in that this run it's so input heavy, and there are so few moments where you can kind of relax and let your mind wander. It really does require your full attention for the entirety of the run. With really the only exceptions being the text, the dialogue boxes that you mash through after finishing every dungeon. You get sort of, anywhere between 40 some seconds to 50 some seconds to sort of catch your breath. But outside of that, it's very demanding mentally, which is fun.
Beautiful fan stash on apathyduck's side. Let's see if Eri also is going for it and gets it. And yeah, that looked good. So basically, we saw both these guys dash up the slope right there, and you can get a bonk on the fence you're seeing on the right side of the screen right here on Eri's side. And there's a nice little setup you can do. When you go into the screen, you will want to hit left and dash on the same frame, and then dash turn upwards, so you dash towards the north of the screen, and then you are usually fine and don't get the bonk on the fence. And it looks really smooth. It doesn't save a whole lot of time, but it looks cool, and it's a nice tech to do. On the other hand, if you're missing it, it's like quite bad. It loses you, I think, around 2 seconds or something. So
yeah, and for most runners, very rarely a problem. But the bonk is killer. You saw apathyduck there after his bomb jump deliberately fall into the pit. That is the fastest way to do that. Obviously, you take an additional heart of damage on top of the damage you take from the bomb jump itself. But falling into the pit there is actually the fastest way to get out of this room. Your other options are to menu to the mirror and mirror out, which is forever taking. Alternatively, you can do a wall, like a wall bonk off the wall and just jump over that pit. But that is a little bit slower than just straight up falling into the pit. Plus, then once you get outside of the dungeon, you have the invulnerability frames, and you don't need to worry about the couple of enemies there in your way. So that's what most runners will do, barring some real trouble with health.
Yeah. And of course, if you did have a little bit of trouble during the overworld or the dungeon beforehand, you can always adjust and choose a strat that saves you a little more HP. Both these runners, of course, getting through that segment of the run real nicely and didn't have to worry about that.
Both runners with good. This has been a couple rooms ago, but in the first room of the Skull Dungeon proper, good Fire Snake RNG, which is great. I hate it when that Fire Snake gets in your way and you have to walk the rest of that hallway. Pretty good moth for apathyduck.
I think it was a little rough of a start for him, but did manage to pull back nicely and get the kill. And wow, that was a beautiful, really fast kill on Eri's side.
That was smart of him to go for the poke there at the end. Moth can be very tricky. Moth is an easy fight to get dangerous if it draws out too long. The way that this game was programmed, again, this is for most people will know this, but for anyone unfamiliar, the way this game was programmed, if you hit Mothula and damage Mothula, but knock the moth into the spikes lining the room, it cancels that damage out. So it only takes 4 hits to kill the moth, but sometimes it takes way more than 4 hits to kill the moth. Yeah. If those get in your way. So what most runners will do is they will try and open the fight with a double poke to get 2 of the hits out of the way, and then you only need 2 to clean up. And usually that's not too terribly difficult, but sometimes it really is, depending on how the moth RNG works. You want the moth to come down into the middle of the room, and then it's really easy. The way Eri played it there, because the moth was still up towards the top of the room, was instead of slashing, he poked to prevent the damage cancel from occurring by getting knocked into the spikes. So really nicely played.
It was beautiful on Eri's side. I don't know if you've even noticed, but he did a really cheeky, quick dash turn towards the left, because there was a spear flying at him. And he blocked it with the shield.
Where he blocks the spear.
Yeah.
Oh, and Eri getting...
Lottery.
That's a completely random damage to take. Every now and then that thing will just decide to ruin your day. And it happened to Eri here. So that's just bad luck.
Yeah. Nothing you can really do about it. You're just going for the dash and hoping it's fine. And most of the time it's fine, but sometimes you just get screwed by that guy. And yeah, you will have to deal with it. It's not the end of the world, because you don't need a whole lot of HP through Ice Palace. Basically, if you can get to the boss, it doesn't really matter how much HP you have. But you can do a couple of optimizations if you do manage to keep your sword beams until the room before the Ice Palace bomb jump, where there's a really long conveyor belt and a couple of optimizations. Or yeah, you can actually do with sword beams, but looks like we won't be having those on Eri's side. As I said, not the end of the world, but hopefully apathyduck will show us how you can manage to save just a couple of extra frames there.
Eri, I saw that dash cancel. That was clutch. Eri narrowly avoiding a fireball there, right to the face, by canceling a dash and then starting it again, which, takes a little bit of time, but is better than losing more hearts, certainly.
Yeah, definitely.
This screen that Eri is just about to finish it up, and apathyduck has already finished. Deceptively difficult section of the game, the Zora's Domain. It seems really straightforward, but because you're spending so much time moving through water, really hard to do well. So Eri not going to have sword beams going into Ice Palace, which just makes the first couple of rooms, really mostly just the first couple of rooms, a little more difficult, because he won't have beams to get rid of these electrified enemies here.
Yeah.
Just more of an annoyance than a real big problem. Yeah, see, now he has to wait out. There we go. So that cost him a couple of seconds while he waited for those enemies to be vulnerable. Where if he had had beams, he doesn't need to worry about that. You can kill him from a distance. Oh, a little bit of a close call there from apathyduck. He took some damage, but managed to get back onto the pegs in time for the bomb to explode.
Yeah.
No worries, but was almost a close call.
Yeah, that was beautiful here, right there by apathyduck. So he used the sword beams to clear the way. There's one of those flying jellies that are called baris in this game, and he managed to get rid of it with his sword beams, and one of those drops a key, and he managed to pick up the key after taking like just a little bit of damage on the spikes to get aligned and have a perfect pixel. There's only one pixel or one Y coordinate where you can get a perfect dash through the room. And wow, keeps on swagging through this dungeon with beautiful swags there, right there. Also very beautiful setup. I've never seen anyone use that. Holding the sword out and using the hammer to get on the correct pixel to get that swags there. So Eri also doesn't want to be left out.
Yeah, it's the fastest way through that room. You kind of clip through the stairs there. I have been told it's not really that hard. I think whoever told me that must be a liar, though, because it sure looks really hard. But it is a neat strat, and it's the optimal way to get through that room there, to kind of just clip through the stairs. No problem with Cold Stare for apathyduck. Cold Stare, if it goes badly, and again, this is not surprising that neither one of these runners are having any great deal of trouble with any of these bosses, but Cold Stare is another one of the bosses, another boss where things can get really hairy pretty easily. Eri having a little bit of trouble. Oh man, I was so worried I cursed him. If you take a Cold Stare death, it's a bad death because you're out of magic, and after a death, you do not regain your magic. So you have to farm magic before you can go back into the Ice Palace, because a full magic bar is required to beat Cold Stare. You have to use all 8 of your Fire Rod shots in order to break the shell around Cold Stare. So if you don't have a full magic bar going into that fight, it's impossible to clear the dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, even the first room, the very first room of the dungeon will lock you out, so you won't be able to get past the first room without at least one shot with the Fire Rod, which you won't be having if you've already spent all your magic on Cold Stare. So basically the backup most runners are using in that case is just ditching Ice Palace altogether and doing Swamp Palace first, clearing that entire dungeon, and after beating Swamp Palace your magic will be refilled as you have beaten the boss, and yeah, with the refilled magic bar then you will head back to Ice Palace and can clear the dungeon, hopefully, well, not die that time around, because backups are getting kind of short to that point, but still it's a huge time loss, so you are having a bad time if you die in Ice Palace, or especially on Cold Stare.
Yeah. So as Yoho pointed out ever so eloquently in chat just a little bit ago, apathyduck does not do his shopping in this split. And I'm actually not sure. So he and Eri might do the same shopping. I can't remember exactly. But there's if they do it the same way, then it doesn't matter. But if they do it differently, then we'll see a little bit of a split in the run at some point, because there are a couple of items that need to be collected. That different runners do it at different times, and so one person will appear way ahead or way behind for a little while until the runs reconverge. That may not come into play here because neither runner has bothered doing their shopping yet. So we'll see when that actually happens.
Eri is
so far,
slowly
problem.
catching up here.
Swamp Palace.
From what it looks like to me.
Swamp Palace, casually, is actually designed to be one of the earlier dungeons you go through. In the speedrun, it's saved for relatively late. But because it is designed to be one of the earlier dungeons, it's not actually that difficult. The enemies here aren't that deadly. There are plenty of hearts if you need them, and that sort of thing. What's annoying about it is there's a lot of opportunities to get nickel and dimed. You don't see a lot of deaths in Swamp Palace. You do see a lot of time loss in Swamp Palace, just from running into random enemies and getting poor RNG. It can be really, really frustrating to clear this dungeon. But like I say, not often that you see someone take a game over here.
Yeah. Swamp Palace is still a very, very hard dungeon to execute in the speedrun of this game. Like, it's, as Ryan has just pointed out, it's not a really hard dungeon as in you can easily die or anything. There's just very, very there's a lot of finicky RNG that you have to deal with, enemies that randomly move into your way, and also the water physics where you have to be extra careful to optimize your dashes and get through the dungeon optimally. Like there's a lot of time to be actually lost if you do not dash and walk those ways instead. It's a lot worse than on like just regular ground. So there's of course lots of potential for you to save time or to lose time in this dungeon. And every time I run this game, I look at the time I beat Swamp Palace in the end and ask myself, where did I lose all this time? Because like every other one, it's just 10 to 15 seconds lower than my last run, and yeah, it's rough.
All right, so apathyduck picking up one of the best items in the whole game, the hookshot. The hookshot is used for just all kinds of cool stuff throughout the rest of the run, in large part just because hooking to items is pretty much the fastest way to move. So anytime there is something that can be hooked to, we might as well do it. A little bit of a bothersome fire snake there, but no big deal. Both runners picking up some extra arrows, which is just smart.
Yeah, still like 10 arrows is quite few at this point of the run, and yeah, apathyduck definitely decides to grab an extra bomb and arrows from Swamp Palace here. Usually you would see runners skip those two pots, but apathyduck was one bomb short anyway, so he will or would have wanted to pick that up anyway, and also grabs those 5 arrows because like 10 arrows, as I said, it's very little for this point of the run. So you will want a little more than that. Does not get the Zero Cycle Argus. It's a very, very tough tech where you have to do lots of inputs in quick succession with multiple button presses on the same frame. Eri is showing us a beautiful Zero Cycle Argus fight here. You can see him catching up to...
Yeah, this is going
over. Wow.
Yep, Eri's now in the lead because of the Argus fight. Wow, and it's going to be a relatively significant lead actually. Apathyduck missing the Zero Cycle Argus and then having a little bit of trouble cleaning up after the fact. Meanwhile, Eri, no problem whatsoever with the Zero Cycle. And to follow that up, you were just describing how to perform the Zero Cycle Argus with the hookshot and the same frame button presses. The technical optimal way to kill Argus after that is with 2 fire rod shots and 1 spin. A lot of runners will opt for 2 spins, but it is a little bit slower. But Eri, no problem whatsoever with the optimal Argus fight. So pulled ahead due to a combination of really, really good Argus and apathyduck having a really, really not great Argus.
Yeah.
So, man, this game.
It was certainly beautiful Argus fight. Unfortunately, on Duck's side, we also saw him go for the optimal fire rod strat that you have described, but unfortunately he also didn't get that, so he did have to do a second spin, get 2 cycles in the second phase of Argus, which also lost a couple of seconds. Definitely.
Eri making up for all the trouble he had on Death Mountain on the first time, on his first with a really, really, really nice Death Mountain this time. Oh, accidentally went into the cave. I hate. The one annoying thing about spin speed is that it does make it kind of difficult to control Link. You're moving so quickly that sometimes it's hard to land exactly where you want to. And while aiming for the staircase there, or the not staircase, that's definitely a ladder. I can English good. Missed the ladder and instead walked into the cave, which is a fairly significant time loss.
Yeah. Also, he got hit by 2 boulders on his ascent. Wow. And I was just going to say how that is actually also a little bit of time loss during the next section of this run, Misery Maya, where you will want to have your sword beams for the second room to do it optimally. And just as I wanted to say it, Eri also got hit by an enemy and lost his sword beam, so no optimal Maya 2 for either of these runners, but they will probably know their way around with just Fire Rod strats, which is like just a tiny tad slower if you don't get the worst RNG, basically.
Now, someone correct me if I'm wrong. Eri had 3 bombs going into picking up the ice rod, and ended up wasting one because he took damage. So has 1 bomb left. I think he's okay. I don't think he will need any bomb luck. I think he only needs 1 from here on out. I could be wrong about that, though.
Yeah, no, that's totally correct. So if their spooky action glitches don't go wrong, they're totally fine on bombs.
So Eri had picked up an extra. Oh, nice, and good hard drops. Eri had picked up an extra bomb near the end of Swamp Palace, and that ended up paying off because he needed it.
Yeah, many runners also like to have that extra bomb just to be sure if something goes wrong, they miss spooky action glitch or anything, they do have enough bombs to just do the rooms regularly, bomb open the wall, and flip the switch regularly, so they still have enough bombs afterwards. Right now, apathyduck, for example, or Eri both, of course, now that Eri also lost his backup bomb, would need extra, or at least 1 extra bomb to do GT optimally if they do not get the spooky action glitch.
Yeah, but not, and again, I hopefully this is not a curse. Not common to see either one of these runners at this skill level have a lot of difficulty with spooky. Now, every now and then things happen, and it sometimes it just doesn't break your way. But usually at this level, spooky goes off without a hitch.
Yeah, and there's the extra bomb for apathyduck. So he just got a drop. So he's definitely fine either way. Yeah, but spooky action glitch itself, it's a quite nice glitch to watch, I think. Basically, there are crystals, crystal switches in this dungeon that we will have to hit to get through there, and there's quite a bit of jank in the code when it comes to the fire rod and its hitbox. Basically, the fire rod has 2 portions of damage, one that hits immediately and one that burns enemies for a little bit of delayed damage, or a hitbox that stays there. And for whatever reason, there's a variable in this game that both these runners manipulated earlier on, which causes that second portion of the fire rod's damage to be moved elsewhere. So it just hits somewhere else, basically a lot higher on the screen, which will cause quite the funny thing that we can shortly see on Eri's screen.
Yeah, all you really need to know is that the game thinks you are hitting much, much higher than you actually are. That's the important thing. So when Eri hits that spike with a fire rod like he just did, what happens is it engages a switch higher up on the screen because the game thinks that he used the fire rod all the way up there. Similarly, in that previous room, there's a switch in a room above where he was, and the game thinks he hit that switch instead of where he actually used the fire rod.
Even if you
they
didn't-
actually made use of that glitch at the very beginning of Ice Palace as well, but it's a much more minor thing. So we didn't mention it, but in Misery Mire, it can save you a lot of time. And Apathy Duck also no problem whatsoever with
getting
with
all
all
three
three
of them.
spookies.
And beautiful Argus. It's Vitreous kill on Eriror's side. Hopefully we will see the same on Apathy Duck's side of things. Starts out really good, and there we go.
There you go. Zero cycle, or I did it too. Zero cycle Vitreous for both runners. Argus, Vitreous, same thing. They're
It's
bosses.
basically all
eyeballs.
bosses in this game. Yeah, they're just giant eyeballs. There are no other enemies in this game. It's just all huge, gross-looking eyeballs. So.
So let's see, where are we at? Airy split Meyer 109.34. So we will get a good idea for the difference between the two runners here coming up pretty soon when Apathy Duck splits. That's the second time in a row that Airy has narrowly avoided getting dead-rocked.
Oh.
Third time in a row, Airy has narrowly avoided getting dead-rocked.
I mean,
looks like Apathy Duck split at 109.58, so about 24 seconds separating them right now, going into the second to last dungeon, Turtle Rock.
Yeah. So one part of things is, of course, the Argus fight we saw that really helped Airy to gain a lot of time on Apathy Duck, but also think just the Swamp Palace itself played out really nicely for Eriror. So he, I think, made up a couple of seconds during the dungeon itself too, and on the overworld screens before.
Yeah, with the exception of the disastrous Hera, and then a couple of extra blue balls. I think most of Airy's splits have been just a little bit fast. Oh no, Apathy Duck did get dead rocked. So he's going to have to just wait until this squirrel here, there you go, becomes unparalyzed and then kill it again. Runners hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
These squirrels are just the bane of everyone's existence when they get in your way like that. And I think I have the benefit of being able to see the live split for both runners. It looks like Airy actually had a gold Skull Woods, so has had a couple of really good dungeons. I don't know if that's a real gold or not, but has managed to sort of whittle away time here and there. And then Argus was the big differentiator.
Airy also typed in chat he was expecting to get a gold Skullwood, so I'm assuming it's a real gold. And you have to imagine, like, Airy is a runner at a level where you're not expecting to see golds a whole lot anymore. Basically everything he does is very, very or has been very, very good already. He has basically had perfect splits on various runs he did before, so getting gold in a run, especially in a tournament run right here, that's something special.
Airy taking one to the face in the Chomps room there, but could have been a lot worse. Chomps is a very dangerous room for anybody. But looked like maybe the second block that he exploded there may have been just a hair late, which resulted in him not having the iframes that he needed to walk on past those Chomps. Apathy Duck coming up on the Chomps room here pretty soon. Both runners, I'm pretty sure, should get... Airy, I know, did. Apathy Duck should get a fairy drop here in this room, which is very, very helpful when Chomps is right after. Oh, no fairy drop. Okay.
He did get a drop, but it was only one drop, so you have a 50% chance to get a drop for each of those segments of enemies to kill, and basically he had no chance to get a drop right here because he did also not get a drop on the hammer saw when doing the hammer jump.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, basically he did have to get a hard drop there to get the ferry here. But yeah, both didn't happen. So he will probably get the ferry on one of the next
yes.
killing.
And then it ended up not being a huge deal. He didn't have any trouble with chomps. He did get the iframes to meander right past the chomps and not take any damage in that room. So yeah, there's the fairy pickup for apathyduck just a little bit ago. So he's at full health now. Eri missing 4 hearts, which is not ideal, but Turtle Rock, while very dangerous for again runners at this level, not frequent deaths.
Yeah, he also got a very, very nice crystal roller room with what we call the squeeze, where he puts down 2 Samaria blocks and lets them explode. Stands on a certain pixel.
I'll be curious to see if Eri goes for the fast skip, actually. Yeah, so Eri not bothering to put down the Samaria block there, which is really scary, but faster than placing a block there. And I don't see many runners do that. It's really difficult to line that up correctly.
Certainly is, yeah. It also looks so cool. If you actually know what this game can do to you if you mess it up, it's so awesome to see runners at this skill level to just casually go for it in runs.
It's interesting, the optimal laser skip there, and we'll see if apathyduck goes for it as well. I'm not sure. The optimal laser skip there that Eri did, apathyduck thought about it and then thought better of it. I assumed it was very difficult. I knew it was hard. I had never even bothered trying it myself. I watched Doomtap, who is another very high level runner. I watched him practice it once for 15-20 minutes. And yeah, it's just as hard as I thought it was. He made it look I don't mean this as an insult, but Doomtap made it look as hard as it is. Runners who have it really down. I love you, Doom. So Eri, I'm gonna guess probably saved even a little bit more time over apathyduck here in Turtle Rock. Despite the little bit of trouble with chomps, I think overall a little bit cleaner dungeon. We'll see. And we're getting close to the end. The last dungeon is coming up, which is Ganon's Tower. And it's a very, very difficult dungeon. Yes. There's a lot of places that can lose you a lot of time in here. Capped off with another fight with Aghanim, which is not nearly as RNG heavy as the first Aghanim fight, but can often go very badly. We'll see when we get there. That's still a few minutes away.
Yeah. Still, as you have mentioned, Ganon's Tower is the hardest segment in this entire run. There are so many hard rooms, so many tight strats that you can do, and optimizations, and also the Gauntlet, which we'll see later on. A lot of refights with bosses, and it's very technical. You remember the start of this run, Escape, we've talked about. I always tell new runners to not stress about Escape too much, because it's a segment that's 6 minutes long, and even a bad runner like me only loses 5 to 10 seconds in Escape to great runners like Eriror or apathyduck. And in this dungeon, during the 7 or so minutes that it takes these guys to complete it, I use an entire minute on them. So it's a whole different story. It's a very, very hard dungeon to perform well.
It's true. Yeah, people talk about wanting to do escape in less than 6 minutes. That's kind of the barometer for a good escape, is if you do it in less than 6 minutes. Similarly, people talk about a good Ganon's Tower being less than 8 minutes. And that is much more difficult to do than a sub-6 escape.
Yeah, I agree. Getting the sub-8 Ganon's Tower is more difficult than the sub-6 escape. But then again, like, I think the community gold in Ganon's Tower is like 643 or something, or 645 or something.
Something like that, yeah. There are not very many people. There's not very many people on the planet who can do a sub-7 Ganon's Tower.
Exactly.
Eri is one of those people.
Still, we have to keep in mind, like, for me, still the sub-8 Ganon's Tower is probably harder than the sub-6 escape, and there's still more than an entire minute to save during that segment.
Yeah.
Whereas in escape, you can maybe save another 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Or, well, I think the fastest thing I've ever seen in a run was a 647 or something. 547 escape.
So one of those difficult things here is coming up right now is the mimics, and Eri just had a mimics to forget. These 2 consecutive rooms go by very quickly, ideally, but are very, very hard. Is those 2 rooms with mimics? apathyduck and Eri both needing to pick up.
apathyduck missed 2 bombs right there, which is
having a lot of trouble with the entry into the ice armos. Eri also needed to pick up some spare arrows before ice armos, but did not have the trouble that apathyduck did with the bomb placement.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Hopefully apathyduck will think of getting an extra bomb upstairs, which he will definitely need.
Yeah, he will need one more bomb. Good ice armos fight though for apathyduck. Eri right now is in the middle of what we call the Gauntlet. It's 5 consecutive rooms that are just hard. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. It's hard rooms. You see runners spending a lot of time practicing these rooms. And that was, there you go. That was all 5. Not too much trouble there for Eri. And now we're on to the second Landmo fight. This is you saw both runners already fight Armos again whilst on ice. The conceit here of Ganon's Tower is that you fight the light world bosses over again. So that was Landmo, and later on we're going to fight Moldorm. But there's a little added wrinkle for each of those bosses that just makes it a little bit harder. In that case, there's a Beamos just shooting fireballs at you. Oh no, an apathyduck having a fall on Ganon balls there, which is rough. And now, so apathyduck now is on to the Gauntlet. Yeah, boy, this dungeon is just hard. There's no other way to describe it. It's a really hard dungeon.
And every time I do manage to get through it like relatively well, what happens is you have the worst Aghanim 2 fight. So we will see how these runners will deal with it. It's also a very hard fight at the end of this dungeon.
There are things in the game that are hard to do well. Like we talked about Zora's Domain earlier, one of those screens that sort of looks pretty simple but isn't. That's easy to start, hard to master. Ganon's Tower is just hard. Yeah. It's hard to do badly. It's hard to do well. It's just hard to do, period.
I agree.
So I don't envy anyone spending a lot of time in here. Eri not opting for a hover, which is probably smart. It is possible to skip that Moldorm fight by hovering over this section. Very, very difficult to do. Not something you see very often. I mean, realistically, unless somebody's going for a world record attempt, or if they just happen to be, preternaturally at hovering, which is not really a thing that people usually are good at.
Yeah, let's keep it at that. Still, I'm very disappointed in you, Eri. I hope you know that.
Oh no. Okay.
We're fine. Eri unfortunately does not have the greatest of Aghanim 2 fights, but he did get a good pattern, but unfortunately did also get a blue ball. Oh, okay, it wouldn't have been enough anyway, so he does have to settle for the 4 cycle, which is not optimal, but yeah, it's still fine.
Yeah. I wonder if Duck is going to go for the hover. apathyduck dropped a bomb in the previous room. No, okay, menu to Hookshot, so no, probably not going to go for the hover. You see people drop bombs in that room because in the very next room you have to use a bomb, and menu optimization means that after you use the bomb, automatically the menu will take you to the fire rod. So if you are going to attempt the hover in the Moldorm fight, you are already on the item that you will need next, which is the fire rod. You need the fire rod for the Ganon fight, which Eri has now moved on to.
Yeah.
So because of the bomb menu manipulation, I sort of wondered if apathyduck was going to attempt to hover, but not so much. Eri down to 2 hearts on Ganon, so we'll have to be a little bit careful.
Basically, he's one shot by anything Ganon can still do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ganon does loads of damage, and Eri did take a little bit of damage already to this fight. Getting plenty of warps. That's annoying. This is the other really, really heavy RNG section, which, of course, it's the very last fight of the entire game. Ganon, during the 3rd phase, will just warp around the room. And there's a 50-50 chance for Ganon to either warp or stay put. And if he stays put, you have an opportunity to attack him. So you can get 0 warps. You can theoretically get an infinite number of warps. He could warp forever. I don't know what the most warps anybody has ever gotten before, but
I think Andy has had 38. Yeah. That's the most I've ever heard of, but well,
38. Dang. Okay, Eri killed Ganon. So GG's to Eri. This should be a very high 125. And apathyduck on to the 3rd phase of Ganon himself. So should be close behind. Final time looks like 125.54 for Eri. So starting off the tournament with a win. Again, the big differentiator there being the Argus fight. The successful 0 cycle followed up with the 2 fire rod optimal strat on Argus, whereas apathyduck missed the 0 cycle and had a pretty lengthy Argus fight as a result. Without that, honestly, it may still have been a win for Eri. It's hard to say. Eri did make up some ground sort of throughout, but that Hera really, really gave Eri some headaches and gave apathyduck a real good shot at the win here. But was not to be. Should be coming up on the end soon for apathyduck.
Very beautiful Ganon fight by apathyduck too.
Mm-hmm.
So, no complaints there. Very well executed. Very, very nice fight. And that's it.
All right, there you go. And that's GG for apathyduck as well. So this should be a mid 127. So yeah, good race for both. Probably not a run that either one of them is going to be terribly happy with, but find me a speedrunner who had a run that they're happy with, and I'll give you $1 million. But regardless, a really, really good way to open the tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Toomtap is happy with his PB.
Yeah, and we're joined by Eriror. GG's Eri.
Yo, thanks.
How'd you feel, Eri?
Not great. It wasn't amazing. Well, most of Dark World was really good, aside from Ice and GT. But yeah, I don't know. Just didn't really feel like I was in the run for most of it. But I mean, of course I'm happy with the result, but it was rough.
Well, at least you managed to pull that one Skullwood's gold off, so that's really nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. That was. I was almost more nervous for getting the gold than I was for the run at that point. That's how it goes. Yo, Apathy. GG's once more.
Yo,
couldn't find
GG,
the
Apathy
Discord.
Duck.
I was in here earlier today and I couldn't find the Discord. GG. Oh man, good old Turtle Rock. Much
Yeah.
fun.
Late game is definitely rough in this game. So,
Yeah.
how are you feeling?
I mean, I feel pretty good. Like I was ahead of my PB coming out of Light World, mostly on the back that my PB has a terrible Aga Tower. I don't know how Hammer Jump got screwed up. I could have sworn I was on the right pixel. It felt like a little weird at the end, but like I have to go and look at it. It was so unfortunate. I mean, racing Eri, like he's like still 2 minutes and 20 seconds faster than me, like PB wise, and like I'm definitely not up to fighting shape yet. Even so, like even with that early death, I knew it was unlikely. But most of it, I mean, a lot of it was pretty good up until. I had the hammer jump problem. Missing the 0 cycle was really bad, especially the way it happened. I ended up getting a 2 cycle, and then it kind of just fell apart after there. I mean, even Meyer with going into Death Mountain Descent, I was only like plus 12 over gold. So I'm getting back there.
It was really
so,
good. There was a lot of green there, especially early on.
There was green. There was one green blade of grass sticking up. I wouldn't go a lot of green.
But yeah, you're right. Anytime you're pitted up against any of the 123 runners or a low 124 runner, it's one of those things where you go into the race sort of understanding that okay, to win this, I'm probably going to have to PB, which is a tall task.
If I PB'd, I would have won. Like,
yes,
so
yeah, you would have.
But even that, like that death from Eri, especially with getting Sankheart, is really rare. So, I couldn't really. I mean, I wanted to race Eri first because I knew I'm not really winning this one. I don't deserve to win this one. But like the way these groups are set up, like I have like the bottom of our group is Shady, who's a really good player and like is more on top of his game than me right now. So like I need to practice for Shady specifically to at least win that match. So I wanted to get this one, down, get a little more practice in, and maybe I might be playing him later in the week. But I mean, with I really like this format with the way it's set up. We're not watching like Eri race someone with a 137, and like it's important to get the people with the low times in tournaments because it's just practice. People get together, everyone's practicing, everyone's running, but it always kind of feels awkward when it's just 10 plus minutes difference. So the fact that kind of we have like these like group buy situations where we're just playing for seeding, I think it makes a lot of sense. We're still playing for something. We're still playing for seeds. So it's a really cool format. We'll see how it ends up the rest of the tournament, but I really like it so far.
And it's
nice. It's nice to be able to open the tournament with two really, really high level runners who are going to be able to showcase a lot of really great tech and
it would have been nice to open with that. Unfortunately, we had me.
Oh, wow.
No, it was great. And I mean, and you're right. I think and obviously hindsight's always 20/20, but not failing a hammer jump, which I'm going to guess is probably not something that happens to you the vast majority of the time, and not failing to get a 0 cycle Argus, which again is probably something that doesn't happen to you the vast majority of the time.
That happened.
That's probably a win.
No, even of those two, like those only 740 seconds right there. That'll just put me in the mid 126. Like Eri, I mean the main thing like the Turtle Rock and the GT and all that kind of stuff. I mean maybe if I was on PV pace I would play a little bit tighter, but yeah, I mean I just especially endgame I got too much rest. I did gold GT like 2 weeks ago in the weekly, so I definitely have gold time there. But it's like the end game is just there's so much, especially in Turtle Rock. There's just so much randomness. It's not only like playing good, but you have to just hope. I got dead rocked, so that's like 8 seconds right there. So just that kind of stuff is just always frustrating. But yeah, really good run. Area was fun. We were hanging out in voice the entire time, just kind of talking back and forth. So
commiserating about the run.
yeah, he was like, "Oh my god, I died. I might lose now." I'm like, "You're fine. Don't. Like, you're absolutely fine." Like,
I did not actually say the that word.
You I heard the sweat in your voice, area. I don't. Let's. Which is flattering. I'll say that. It's very flattering, but ultimately misplaced. So he still needed like another like helm of death or something for me to win this. So.
Well, I mean, without the Sankheart came in clutch for you, Eri, a lot, many times.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Sankheart allows you to play a bit more aggressively. I would have played Helma a lot different if I didn't have free hits to give. But Hera was so awful. Like, I not only did I handle the RNG poorly, but it was definitely RNG I don't see that often. Just the combination of the dead rock staying there and the boulder going to the right. So I didn't really know how to handle that properly. But yeah, that plus I maybe should have just taken a death warp at the small key instead of just being greedy and going for.
I sort of wondered if you might actually do that.
Yeah, just like even if you're number 1 seed or like a top runner, you're still gonna have like race nerves and tourney nerves and stuff. That stuff always stays, no matter how good you are at a game, I guess. So I don't.
Oh yeah, that's why they don't do the tournament on paper.
Yeah, exactly. And
oh, I wish.
we called it.
I got 30th place. All right, let's go.
Well, thanks so much for both of you. GGs to everybody. Anybody have any closing comments, thoughts, questions, complaints?
No, I'll just. Well, there you go. You go first.
I just wanted to add what Afi was talking about earlier, that the tourney structure is super cool, that it really motivates newer runners and runners with like 130 times to like have even matchups, and they'll be the future 124 to 123 runners as well. So it's really cool to watch them improve and all that. So I'm really looking forward to how the tourney progresses and who comes out on top.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, like Ari said, the format's really cool. It really gives, like, even before where it's like, if you're like a 137 or 130 player and you're grinding a bunch, it's like, yeah, you might PB a couple of times, but if you're still seated low in your group, you're going up against guys of like in the mid 120s, and those races aren't so like everyone is playing for it. Like pretty much everyone can win any match. Like I mean, Shady can beat Ari. I mean, if Ari takes a death on like Vidi or something, which happens, that race is going to be really. I'm not cursing you. I'm just saying anything can happen. Like, pretty much every race is within a death. The death today for Ari wasn't that bad, but one death is going to change any of these. So they're all going to be really close. It's going to be really fun. So I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, we got a lot of great matches coming up this week. We got who's later today? I think Kane is. Yeah, Doom and Kane tomorrow night at 10 is going to be really good. I got John Rossums and GLS tomorrow too. So a bunch of good matches. Like I said, they're all going to be exciting. So it's going to be, we're going to restream everything we can, and should be a really fun tournament.
Excellent. I have absolutely no idea how I'm supposed to close this out. So
that's where I jump in.
Now
you throw it to me. You throw it to me.
That's why we
all right.
The commentary rules that you're supposed to read.
But thank you everyone for watching. As apathyduck was saying, we do have more matches on the way in this particular tournament. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, we have Tenware versus Master Omelette. That's at 1 p.m. And as he said, 8 p.m. Wednesday, we have John Rossums versus Green Linen Shirt. 10 p.m. is Doomtat versus Kane Chain. And Thursday, 3 p.m., we have Verts 505 versus Weera is Efer? I don't understand vowels sometimes. And as for ZSR, later today at 10 p.m., 7 p.m., we have a Zelda 2 Randomizer Max Random match between Ghost Dunk and Elendar. And at 10 p.m., we have another match between Trail Z versus Chromaticalism. Blech. Sometimes my tongue gets all twisted. In any case, I want to thank our runners, apathyduck and Eriror, and our commentators, Tanwir and this guy, Orion. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Did an excellent job. Have a great day, everybody. Bye!
Bye.
Bye.
You know.